Yes, people, what's good? Welcome back to my channel. It's Tapping Tobes here. Bruh, you see this setup right now. This ain't my house. This ain't my flat. Yeah? This ain't my living room. This is one of my work booths, right? I'm meant to be working, but I saw the alert on my phone, literally 1:54. I saw the alert maybe 10, 15 minutes ago. I saw the bomber that David Ornstein dropped, which has obviously sent shockwaves through the Premier League. And bruh, I said, you know what? I have to talk about this. I have to. I must. Alexander Isak, what a bumper, bumper to bumper. Yeah, we all knew as football fans, right? And before I even get into specifics, let me actually read. So Ornstein has dropped an article saying Alexander Isak wants to leave Newcastle and has asked not to go on their pre-season tour. So we knew that he was omitted from the friendly that they had against Celtic where they got spanked. And then we see news that drops this morning saying Isak is not part of the travelling squad for their pre-season tour. And you're thinking, And then people, obviously, some people trying to play it down saying, oh yeah, no, it's not transfer related. It's not transfer related. Well, we've heard it from the horse's mouth. This is as credible as it gets. David Ornstein, he is someone that doesn't do if, buts, or maybes. He does absolute. So if he's tweeting it, him or Fab, if they're tweeting, it is true. It is true, right? And what he said is Alexander Isak wants to leave Newcastle. He's asked not to go on the pre-season tour. Yeah. It says Isak wants to leave Newcastle. Multiple sources privy to the situation have told The Athletic. Yeah. Newcastle, I'm going to skim through it. Newcastle have been determined to retain Isak on an improved contract. His existing terms run till June 2028, but are also exploring other potential replacements in case he departs. I'm going to skim. Obviously, we know about the Liverpool news. I think the bit that is most important here is Newcastle have been resolute from the boardroom through to Eddie Howe that Isak is not for sale, and they have. Fair point, it's true. They stood firm, and that position remained, though it was always dependent on Isak accepting that stance. Should the striker really agitate to go, and there is a willing buyer able to cough up an eye-watering sum acceptable to Newcastle, then how absolute Newcastle's resolve is will finally be tested. People, there's a saying. The irony there's in what I'm about to say, but there's a saying by a certain someone on the Big Six who's actually a supporter of a club who has triggered this domino effect, Liverpool. And I'm talking about my good brother Grizz. He says football is a humbler. And I'm here to tell you people, football is a humbler. When you think you know something, when you think you're comfortable, when you think you're secure in a player at a club, a manager at a club, yeah, they can flip the script. They can flip the script so quickly. Yeah. Everyone is loyal and determined and loves the club until a bigger player comes into the mix and dangles that carrot of money, fame, clout, potential success in their face. I don't blame Isak. I do not blame Alexander Isak. And as I said, fair play to Newcastle for staying firm, staying true. They don't want to sell him. They lost out on Ekitike. But boy, oh boy, if they lose Isak this summer and they've not landed Ekitike, my goodness, the way Liverpool fans are going to tap dance on their graves, it's going to be biblical, right? Because that will be a monumental L. That will be a huge L. And Liverpool are still in the mix. They're still active. They're selling Diaz. I'm hearing they're probably going to sell Harvey Elliott. I think Grizz was telling me that they're looking to sell Ben Doak plus a few others. So there's money coming in to Liverpool on top of the money that they spend, on top of the money that they still have left to spend. So it looks as if they might just have the resources to go out there and get Isak and Ekitike. And I remember when I was discussing this as a possibility on the video I dropped last week, people in my comments telling me, don't be so stupid. People are telling me, nah, how can you say it's a loss for Newcastle? It was a loss for Newcastle with Ekitike. And where I thought it was a W with Isak, that now potentially could be a loss. That really could be a loss right now, honestly. Because if they lose Isak and they've now lost Ekitike, oh my days, that is LZ. I have to talk about, I just literally saw lead partner of my team walk past. That's why I turned my head. But I have to talk about the fact that, yeah, where this leaves Newcastle and the dangers of when a player's head gets turned. Now, Everyone says, "Oh, Isak, model professional. He'll never be that guy." Well, potentially he could be that guy. Newcastle fans didn't think Isak was going to turn around this summer and request to leave. They didn't think that. I think everyone knew that, okay, Isak will probably stay this summer. He's not going to kick up a fuss. He'll stay this summer. He won't sign a new contract. And then he'll invite, his entourage will probably invite buyers again next summer. But for Isak to come out and not publicly, but for Isak to behind the scenes to say to Newcastle, I want to leave this summer, that's big. That's going to get football moving and shaking. Big players like Newcastle, well, big players like Liverpool, sorry, they're on high alert now, more so than they were before. And football really is a humbler, because when you think a player is incapable of doing these things, they will do these things. Trust me, I'm telling you as a Spurs fan, we had a lifelong Tottenham fan in Harry Kane. Yeah, loved the club, grew up with the club, wanted nothing more than to succeed with the club. But the minute Man City came in, threw money down, and started dangling that carrot. Once they dangled that carrot, boy, heads will turn. Trust me, heads will turn. When Man City dangled that carrot in front of Harry Kane's face, lovable Kane, he would never be the guy to be unprofessional. Kane didn't turn up to training, wanted to force an engineered exit, going on interviews with Gary Neville saying the idea of a new challenge isn't something that scares him, etc., etc. Practically doing everything in his power to engineer an exit without the club booting him out. And not saying that that's what Isak is going to do, but this is the first step towards potential actions like that. This is the first step. The player has now made it known to the club that he wants to leave this summer. So now, when the big fishes come and circle around and start making offers, you don't know what Isak is going to do, right? You don't know if he's going to be professional behind the scenes. You don't know if he's going to go on strike. You don't know. And all of these things will have a massive impact on Newcastle, right? Because they're going to have so many headaches to put out. Let's say if they somehow manage to keep him. If he's unhappy, if he's visibly unhappy, right, that's going to have a big impact on their upcoming season in the Champions League, especially. That's going to have a huge season. He's their best player. You can't have your best player in a position where he doesn't want to play for your club, because the performances that that player is going to put out for your club typically won't be good. Again, using the Harry Kane example initially, for 3-4 months, Harry Kane stank. He literally stank. He didn't want to be there, but finally got his head in the game. And then the rest was history. He started patterning up and he was putting in good performances. And I'm not saying that that can't happen with Isak. It can happen with Isak. Isak could say that he wants to leave, he wants to do all of these things now, and the moves don't materialize. And he is potentially a model professional, and he does put his head down and focus on his football. That is realistic. That's realistic, because as of now, we've not seen him act in a way that is disrespectful to Newcastle, right? Requesting to leave is not disrespectful to Newcastle. It's just what the player wants, right? We haven't seen him be disrespectful yet to Newcastle, and we may not see him be disrespectful. But now that he has vocalized his intent to leave, that opens up the possibility that he could be. And if he does throw a strop, if he does throw a hissy fit, right, that's going to put them in jeopardy. You're going to have an unhappy player in your hands. And I think what even makes it worse is Isak. If they do sell him this summer, my goodness, it's going to be so hard to replace him. They needed to sign someone alongside Isak. But now you're saying, you're going to potentially lose Isak. That means you have to get in 2 players to play in that position. And someone who's guaranteeing you 20 plus league goals, bruv, good luck replacing that. Good luck replacing that. Arsenal just signed Gyökeres, right? Benjamin Sesko is going to cost about 90 million euros, and he isn't even a quarter of the quality Isak is in terms of finishing and just general technical ability. Yeah. Osimhen is on his way to Galatasaray. He's not going to go Newcastle. That's the problem. Unfortunately, Newcastle, great progress they've made, unprecedented progress they've made the last couple of years in terms of Premier League finishes and winning their first trophy in 50 something years. It's huge. Newcastle are trying to move in the right direction. They want to be a bigger player, but unfortunately for them, they're not a big player right now. So when a big player steps into the room and dangles that carrot in their star man's face, their star man is going to want to jump ship, leave Newcastle and go to that bigger player. It's just the natural food chain when it comes to the Premier League. And unfortunately, Newcastle, they have been bland from pillar to post all summer. They've lost out on pretty much all of their first choice targets apart from Ilanga. And even Ilanga, you've had to overpay massively to sign, in my opinion, what is a decent player at best. You've overpaid for a decent player at best, right? Ekatike, you didn't sign him. Mark Gurhey, you didn't sign him. James Trafford, you didn't sign him. I'm trying to think. There's more. There's other players I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but they can't sign. They've lost out on João Pedro, sorry, you didn't sign him, right? They're losing out on targets, and now their potential, the star man is potentially someone who can leave as well. It's not a good situation to be in as a Newcastle fan. If I was a Newcastle fan, I'd be worried. I'm not even saying it to take the piss. I would be worried. Now, there is a silver lining, right? If they lose Isak, they stand to gain a lot of money. They can use that money to invest into their squad, right? Just be smart with the recruitment. And they have been the last couple of years. Livramento, Bruno Guimaraes. Like, go for players that are good enough to improve your team that you know won't catch the attention of the big clubs. And if it means taking a punt on a player that the big clubs don't want to take a punt on, then so be it. But I say this to end, yeah? Don't get too comfortable thinking that you know the ins and outs of a player at your club, because that very same character that you think the player has, it can flip like a switch. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, people. Take care. Peace out. Speak soon.